prompted that letting us know that this meeting is being recorded. So just have consent if you wish to stay. Now, one thing I was going to mention to everybody is just that I was the other day listening to a podcast where a successful life coach was speaking, and they asked him, the first question was, how did he get started? And his answer was, I started by joining my local Toastmasters club. So I thought I'd share that with everybody here. Now, as we get started again for another exciting meeting, I'll ask everybody, let's do our best to avoid any distractions. And let's continue next with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I will pass the meeting to our phenomenal president, Shastri Stewart. Got the mic?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ray. You're so kind. And you're phenomenal as well. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. We have quite a few guests in our audience on our platform tonight. We want to welcome you all. So first thing, I want to point two things. I'll recite our mission statement, and then secondly, I'll acknowledge our guests. So our mission statement states, it is to provide a learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence. Now, I believe we have two guests, Woodland and, can't pronounce your name, Thad? All right, perfect. So I'll start with you, Thad. Can you tell us why you are at our meeting today and what Toastmasters could offer for you?
Well, the main reason for me joining today is I am my high school chemistry teacher, and I find in today's environment of half in Zoom, half in class, doing online, communication is being lost with the students, and hopefully I can do a better job and be able to communicate better with the students.
Perfect. Thank you, Thad. And hopefully you are able to find something useful that you could use to really engage your little minds. Thank you for being here tonight. Woodland, you're back again. So are you going to finally take the plunge?
Maybe.
Well, that's a start, but you gotta dive, man. You gotta dive. You gotta make that decision because the clock is still ticking, and people are continue improving while you're on the sidelines. You want to make sure that you put yourself in the game. All right, so I'll move on to our meeting. We have well, before I do so, I'd like to acknowledge our speakers at our competition over the weekend. We had Shay Greaves, we had Connie Andrews, and we had Stacy Kessler representing this wonderful club. And they did an amazing job, an incredible job representing this club. So just put your hands together to thank them for doing such an awesome job at our area contest. I'll pass on the meeting to our Toastmaster of the day. It's now 6:59. The one and only Justin Gwynn. Please welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Justin Gwynn.
Thank you, Shastri. Our theme for this evening I've chosen is perseverance. We are now 7 months into this COVID pandemic, and it's been a very difficult year for many people on a number of different aspects. I encourage you all, whatever challenges you are currently facing, keep fighting. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to our invocation of the day, Toastmaster Brenham Cully.
Thank you, Toastmaster. It was through perseverance that a gentleman looked at a piece of swampland and turned it into one of the most magical places known to man. They call it Disneyland, which eventually turned into Disney World. And the quote that he said is, if you can dream it, you can do it. So remember, use that perseverance and you can create beautiful things in your life. Toastmaster.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Brennan. As Toastmaster of the Day, I serve as your Master of Ceremonies. For the benefit of our guests and new members, a traditional Toastmasters meeting has 3 sections: formal speeches, table topics, and evaluations. During our meeting, I would encourage you to send private message to the speakers and the functionaries, suggesting areas that you enjoyed about their role and 1 or 2 areas of improvements. Throughout the meeting, our members have the opportunity to practice their listening, critical thinking, and management skills, serving in various roles. Toastmaster Hyun Green, could you please explain your role as our counter?
Certainly, it is my pleasure to serve as our counter tonight. This is especially for our guests, Thad and Woodlyn. Don't be annoyed when you hear the ding. Persevere in your response, and you will learn how not to speak ahs and ums, you knows, so's, and all the crutch words that you can think of. I am not going to tell you who said how many at the end, but I will make a tally of the total ahs and ums tonight, and I will report to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hyun Green. Toastmaster Sonia Garate, please explain your role as grammarian.
One benefit of Toastmasters is that it helps people improve their grammar and word use. Being grammarian provides an exercise in expanding my listening skills. I have several responsibilities: to introduce new words to members, to comment on the language used during the course of the meeting, and to provide examples of eloquence. The word of the day tonight, even though we are using the word perseverance a lot, let's try and use the word diligence. That is a noun, and it means careful and persistent work or effort. Used in a sentence, you could say, her diligence in following pathways resulted in her becoming a more confident speaker. So I encourage anyone speaking tonight to use the word of the day when speaking. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sonia. Toastmaster Ray Melendez, please explain your role as general timer. You are on mute, Ray.
Here I go again. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, as timer, I will time the table topics, the formal speeches, and the evaluations. I will also alert each speaker the time they have left using a green, yellow, and red background on my side, which will denote the times, which denotes specific times remaining. Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. Toastmaster Gary Newper, please explain your role as general evaluator.
Toastmaster of the day. If one thinks of the club meeting as a project, then think of the general evaluator as the quality control manager. I will be commenting on the overall flow of today's meeting and giving feedback. Thank you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Gary. We move on to the first section of our meeting, the formal speeches, which is prepared speeches based on specific projects within our Pathways program. This evening, we have 3 speakers. Toastmaster Shastri Stewart, please provide us a project information for our first speaker.
Most definitely, Mr. Toastmaster. Okay. All right, so Jana is doing a pathway presentation mastery, and the project is effective body language. Her topic is a tale as old as time. The purpose of this project is for the member, Sujana, to deliver a speech with awareness of intentional and unintentional body language, as well as to learn, practice, and refine how she uses nonverbal communication when delivering her speech. Mr.
Correction.
Toastmaster.
Oh, yes, correction. I was supposed to be evaluator for Susanna. Is she her speech first?
I thought I was the third speaker for tonight.
Okay, the agenda has our first speaker as Michelle, our second speaker as Brennan, and our third speaker as Susanna. Our evaluators in that order: evaluator 1, Shastri, evaluating Michelle; evaluator 2 is Connie, evaluating Brennan; and evaluator 3 is Shay, evaluating Susanna. Is that going to be acceptable?
Yes, let me change that.
Okay.
My apologies on that. I was reading the wrong thing on the agenda. All right. So Michelle will be providing her icebreaker speech. That'll be her first speech. It's a speech pretty much to get to know who she is. Her speech length is 46 minutes. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shastri. Timer, can you please demonstrate the timing signals for this speech?
All right, let me set this up here. All right. So after 4 minutes, oh, my background just disappeared. After 4 minutes, I'll have a green background. Give me a thumbs up if you see it. After 5 minutes, I'll have a background. Is this an icebreaker? I didn't catch. It is, okay.
Yes.
And then it is, all right. So just making sure. Then and after 6 minutes, I will have the red card behind me.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. And without further ado, we bring our Toastmaster Michelle. Speech titled My Shell. This speech will be about what is under my shell, what makes me tick. At this stage of development of Wellington Toastmasters, I can be compared to a crystalist, but under the auspices of this club, its coaching, personal development, and training, I hope to metamorphosize into a creative and talented speaker. And without further ado, Toastmaster Michelle.
Mic check. Everyone's hearing me?
All good.
Toastmaster of the day, Justin Gwynn, fellow Toastmasters, dignitaries, and guests. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You become what you disliked most about your parents. I'm not quite sure if I have my thesis correct, but at the end of your getting to know me, you would understand why I say so. My name is Michelle Gonzalez Hill. I have to always remember to add the Hill because I'm recently married, 10 years. I keep forgetting to add the Hill. I was born to Jacqueline and Mervyn Gonzalez. I am the eldest of 7 children. All our names begin with M. I grew up in the idyllic island of Trinidad and Tobago. As the eldest, I assumed the role of big sister, mom. As early as 9 years old, I was cooking, so I can cook. I am married to a wonderful, handsome Jamaican man by the name of Donovan Hill. I have 1 son from a previous marriage, CJ, who's 29, and a wonderful, vociferous, vivacious grandson who is 7 going on 21 that keeps me on my toes. I think I look younger for it. I love chocolate cake and chocolate ice cream, but they do not reciprocate. For this introduction, I want you to stay with me, journey with me as I go under my shell. I want to focus on one parent, my father. Why, you may ask? I need to talk about myself, but I stand on his shoulders tonight. He was my nemesis. I never liked my father. Not a good thing for a child to say, but you will know why. He brought out the very worst in me because he would poke fun at me. He would tell me things that really hurt my feelings, and he was a jokester. I did not like that about my dad. But on the other hand, he would come at home and he would say things that would really be off limits. It would be agitating to me as a child. For example, one day he would come home, gather around, I have something to tell you guys. And then he would say, so we would all have his attention, and he would say, there is a fly on the wall. So we would all look up. There is a fly on the wall. And that is all. Now, as a child, that irritated me highly. However, he persevered in this line of joking, of being a funny person, but people just gravitated towards my father and loved him. I have no idea why. I did not like him. But then as I grew older, I realized I was actually mimicking and mirroring some of his characteristics. And this is how you know me. You will know me as I am. I love to joke around. I love to poke fun at myself in a self-deprecating way, but I love good humor. And so in my self-exploration, in looking at under my shell, I realized that I became my father's child. I became the jokester of my family. It is okay not to want to be like your father or not to want to be like your parents. It's not so bad. But if you can tweak yourself a little bit, you can become an even better version of them. Forgive them. They did what they could with what they had. I am my father's child. Toastmasters of the day, thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Michelle. I love all the pictures in the background that you have there. Looks like family, and I just love all the pictures. They look great. Thank you so much for sharing more about yourself, and we look forward to many more speeches of humor from you, I suppose. Moving on to our second speaker of the day, Toastmaster Connie Andrews. Could you please provide us the project information for our second speaker?
The purpose of the speech for our second speaker is for the speaker to learn or review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. So the speech is about researching and presenting. The length of the speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Speech title, why your coaching business struggles to scale and how to scale it to 6 figures by next weekend. Caught my attention.
Thank you, Toastmaster Connie. Timer, can you please demonstrate the timing signals for this speech?
Yes, sir. Similarly, I will, at the 5th minute, put a green background. Hopefully you see it. And at the 6th minute, I will raise the yellow background. And after the 7th minute, you will see a red background, which means it's time to finish up.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. As Connie mentioned, the title of his speech, Brendan McCauley kept failing to make the big bucks as a coach, but then he discovered this one formula that changed the game. I'm looking forward to hearing this. Toastmaster Brendan, please welcome.
Thank you, Toastmaster. About 5 years ago, I had worked a corporate job. I went to fly Chair Force One every day, sitting there doing something that I felt unfulfilled with. And I remember asking my spouse one day when I woke up, I said, babe, I want to leave my job and I want to be a full-time entrepreneur. Will you support me? And she looked at me and she said, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Go for it. So over the past 5 years, I will say it was one of the most incredible character building experiences that I've ever had in my life. And I have a chart that I actually had gone through. And basically what it says is that you have ridiculous ups and downs that consist of, this life is great. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay the bills? Oh, this is phenomenal. Oh my God, I'm going bankrupt tomorrow. And that is basically what the chart looks like as an entrepreneur. And for many years, as I continued to go through and I persevered, asking myself, what am I missing? What is out there? And how can I really make that something that's tangible where I know that I'm getting paid for what I'm worth? And that was something I had struggled with for quite some time. And then I came across the concept of courses. Does anyone here know Tony Robbins? Okay, so most of us, about 95% of us, if not all of us. And with that, he created a program that was called Personal Power. And with Personal Power, it was actually one of the #1 products that took him pretty much through his stardom and on from there. And the reason was, and here I want by a show of hands, if you feel that you have a talent, skill, knowledge, or ability that you could get paid for, would you want to? By a show of hands, yes or no? Okay, that's exactly what my thought was. Here's the challenge with that. In my research, I did a case study with a good friend of mine, how his business model looks right now. And I also did a business model for myself. And I put these side by side. And I tested this out over the past 2 weeks. And I'm going to present to you what happened tonight and what the difference is between his business model, which is what I used to follow, and my business model, which is what I follow now, and how we're scaling and how you can implement it literally within the next week and a half. And you can make 6 figures over a weekend. So the challenge with his business model is he does what most coaches do. He sells books, figure $15 on average. He sells his course, which he's very passionate about. He's put plenty of time into it. He's hired plenty of people, videographers, people to do his PDF, people to do his creative, people to do his marketing. Guess how much he sells it for? $27. So when I asked him, I said, Chris, what is your goal? Where are you at right now and where do you want to get to? He said, Brendan, I need to make to support my family, to support my kids, to support my lifestyle, to live. I need to make $150,000 per year. I said, okay, that's reasonable. Obviously, you've been in your job for quite some time. You want to be able to make up what you were missing. So I said, Chris, let's do some math. Let's assume that you had $27 courses and you needed to make on average about $12,500 per month. Do you realize you'd have to sell about 463 courses to hit what you need just to level out, assuming that that matches your expenses and everything else? And I said, okay, well, let's take that up a next level. And let's say, what is your value ladder? He said, well, I also do courses and I do speaking and I do one-on-one. Okay, so if you're one-on-one, what does that look like? I don't know. I haven't really had the time to figure that out, so I don't necessarily have a model. Okay, so what does your speaking look like? Well, I hope to charge about $400 to $500. And then ideally they'll pay me for that. I can go on stage. And I said, all right, well, let's assume that you get 2 speaking models, 2 speaking engagements per month. Okay, $1,000. So now maybe you only have to sell 300 to 400 courses. So here's the challenge with that business model. Not that it's not doable, but there's definitely a better way. And this is exactly what I'd like to share. So what I did was I hosted a 5-day challenge, and anybody can do this. So whatever it is that you choose to focus on, that you are an expert at, my recommendation is that you hold a 5-day challenge. And the way this works is you pick the top 5 areas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever that vertical is. That could be relationships, that can be speaking, that could be how to be a better Toastmaster, and you host this for free. And the beautiful part is that especially with this COVID environment, you can have all these people that will be very interested in, hey, I'm going to host this challenge. Would absolutely love to have you join us. Click below and put I'm in. So what happened to mine? I had about 14 people that said that they were totally down for it. So I put them right in. And day one had about 5 people all the way through the entire challenge that went through the entire piece. Day one, they showed up, had a phenomenal session of pure value. And then we went into day 2, went into day 3, and then each day they had a little bit of homework. So what did I do? I gave massive value for only an hour's worth of time. And they did some homework. They were super engaged. I asked questions. They answered very much in this scenario right here. And the beautiful part is that because you increase your know, like, and trust factor with an audience that hasn't really had to invest much other than time up front, and you've given massive value, now you have the ability to offer what we call a 6-figure weekend or a 3-day intensive. And what that is that you take your expertise, they work with you in a one-on-one fashion, and from there you choose whatever that is. You go for basically a couple hours per day. So maybe 3 hours on a Friday, 3 hours on a Saturday, and 3 hours on a Sunday. And you condense exactly what the challenge was that they had that would take them typically figure 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks to learn into a 3-day workshop, 3-day seminar, 3-day intensive that has a very high value to it. So to give you an idea, we provide what's called a business in a box, where we give you all the tools, we give you all the emails, like the whole 9 yards. So to test this out from a numbers perspective, my goal was to get at least 1 out of 5. We hit that number, and I was thankful to say that initially it's something that we were going to charge $10,000 for. We said we were actually going to bring it down to 6. We were going to value stack it with a lot of bonuses, and within 45 minutes, somebody purchased. Now, here's the coolest part that I can tell you. I don't tell you these numbers to brag. I tell you these numbers because they are totally possible. And when you provide this much value and people perceive that it's this much and they get so much more out of it that they can turn around and make 2, 3, 4 times what you just provided to them, the value that you can actually look on your phone and see a smiling face from somebody that sends you a text message of thank you so much, I'm so glad I went through this 3-day weekend, is not only fulfilling inside, it's a better business model because you leverage your time, you leverage your money, and then you also provide a massive amount of value to your clientele. So the biggest takeaway is that if you're going to put your time and your efforts into marketing, into putting a campaign out there, into reaching out to clientele, consider a 5-day challenge with a 3-day intensive after it. It's a much more effective business model, and it'll be well worth yours and your new customers' time. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brennan. I certainly admire your ambition and your passion as an entrepreneurial person. Certainly not something that I have in myself to go off on my own. It takes a lot of bravery, and I certainly admire that. I'm happy to have you as a fellow Toastmaster. Moving on to our third speech of the day. Toastmaster Shay Greaves, please provide project information for our third speaker.
Yes, our third speaker is Susanna. The purpose of this project is for the member to deliver a speech with the awareness of intentional and unintentional body language, as well as to learn, practice, and refine how he or she non-verbally communicates while delivering a speech. The title is A Tale as Old as Time.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shay. I'm very much looking forward to this. A Tale as Old as Time. I want to break into song with this. Then we'll be sharing some valuable life lessons from the classic Disney fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. Please welcome Toastmaster Susanna.
Thank you, Toastmaster Justin. I'm gonna share a screen. Hopefully you guys can see. Shay, I'm not able to share the screen. You probably have to stop sharing if you are. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
I now enabled it, so you should be able to share.
There you go. Can everybody see my screen?
We do.
Give me 1 second. Can you hear the audio now? Yes.
No, it might have to do with your headphones being in.
Susanna,
Yes.
when you click on at your share screen, there's an up arrow, and I think or in your settings, when you go to the share screen settings, there's a setting that for the audio.
It's share computer sound, right? Let's try one more time. If not, then I'm prepared. Okay. That indeed is from the movie Beauty and the Beast, and the song is Tale as Old as Time. This this Disney classic is more than a fairy tale. It's an unforgettable story that would be carried to generations to come because this epic provides so many valuable lessons that can be treasured as real life lessons for all of us. I have two young daughters. Some of you already know. They are obsessed with Disney princess, and Princess Belle happened to be one of their favorite. So you can imagine how many times I have watched this movie on replay, also how many times I've read the stories, and how many times I have listened to these wonderful songs from this movie. Not too long ago, I was driving by myself, and Tale as Old as Time was playing in the background, and I just had an aha moment. I just recall all the lessons of this story, and I thought, oh wow, these lessons are not just for kids; these are even for adults. There is one or two things that we all can learn. Good evening, my fellow Toastmaster. Tonight, I'm here to share some of the valuable life lesson from this epic Beauty and the Beast. The first life lesson that I learned is never lose yourself for the approval of others. As you know, Belle grew up in a small, tiny town in France in 18th century. She is quite different than the young girls of her age. She never fit the status quo of the French village girl. She wanted knowledge, she wanted adventure, and she wanted broader perspective of life. These things were actually frowned upon in that era. But she refused to take approval from others to go after what she wanted. In her heart, she knew what she wanted of life was right. So she therefore took a leap and went after her dream. I can very relate to Belle to my younger self. Some of you already know I came to United States all the way from Kathmandu, Nepal, which is 8,000 miles away. I came here for education. Even growing up in Kathmandu before even high school, I knew I wanted to go outside Kathmandu to get valuable education in United States because they had one of the best um, for quality education here. That is actually quite not the status quo of what Nepali girls wanted at my age then, but I never let anybody tell me, or I did not seek for approval from my conservative relatives or my friends. I knew what I wanted. The only people I needed approval was from my parents because they were paying for it for the most part. So my challenge to you, Toastmaster, tonight is there something in your life that you have been wanting to do, but you are holding back because you're seeking approval from others? Think about it. That's the first lesson. Second lesson is look beyond what you see. Let me repeat, look beyond what you see. In this movie, when Belle met the beast for the first time, he looked quite scary, right? His exterior was not very appealing. It's beast, of course. But as she get to know him, she soon discovered he just a pure soul who is gentle and kind, trapped in the body of a beast. And even like towards the end of the movie, which is that Gaston is the villain of Beauty and the Beast. Irony is he is one of the most handsome lad in the French town, in that French town. However, he is beastly because of his character. And Belle tells Gaston towards the end of the movie that you are the real beast. This is another validation that we should be looking after, like we should be getting over the superficial, right? Like look beyond what you see. I want to spin this into the context of what we all can relate to, social media. Today, we are guilty of looking at the pictures of our friends and family, and how often do we wonder, wow, they're having a good life. They seem so happy. Are they? How do you know? They decided to put the pictures during their happy moments. That's what we all do. But do we really know they are happy? If you really want to cultivate into meaningful relationship or friendship, we must understand human being, especially in this pandemic. We don't know what's happening in their life. Looking at the picture, pick up a call and ask them how they are really doing. So we must all look beyond what we see. So these are the two life lessons that I loved about from Beauty and the Beast. Never lose yourself for the approval of others. Look beyond what you see. I hope these lessons also resonated with you as much as it did to me. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Susanna. A great movie, a great speech, and great lessons to learn from that movie. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. May I have a brief timers report?
Yes, you may. All speakers were within the allotted time, even though we were pretty close.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. Again, I encourage all members and guests to provide feedback via our chat feature to each speaker directly of things that you enjoyed about their speech and things that you feel that they can improve upon, even if you're not the evaluator. The second section of our meeting is table topics. This is an opportunity to develop extemporaneous speaking skills. This is impromptu speaking. All guests are encouraged to participate. Please welcome our topics master of the evening, Toastmaster Jack Miller.
Thank you, Toastmaster Justin. Today, I'm going to start out the table topics with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, which reads, "Perseverance opens up treasures which bring perennial joy." Tell us of a time when perseverance brought joy to you. Toastmaster Gary, tell us of a time when perseverance brought joy to you.
Thank you, Topics Master Jack. I think there are always a number of aspects in life where perseverance ends up bringing joy. It's very seldom that when you really go after something and work hard at it, that it doesn't bring you joy. Although those circumstances can happen. But I think one of the biggest items that I can think of in my life where perseverance has brought me great joy was just in terms of getting married and meeting my wife. When my wife and I first met, I was living in Texas and she was living in Florida. I'm not sure if any of you have dated long distance, but it's not always the easiest thing to accomplish. I'm very grateful to say that over the time that we dated, we were able to see each other every weekend except for one weekend, which is pretty miraculous considering you're thousands of miles apart. I was very fortunate at the time that my job allowed me to travel. So instead of flying back to Texas for the weekends, I could utilize the company to fly to Florida for the weekends. So I loved Florida before I even moved here. I guess I was meant to be here. Well, that's my biggest moment of perseverance, and it's brought me great joy. Thank you, Topics Master Jack.
Next one is another quote from John Adams, John Quincy Adams, you may know. It says, perseverance needs to be tempered with wisdom and ability. Banging your head against the wall will more likely bring about a concussion than a hole in the wall. When have you had to wisely step aside from a goal? Shastri Stewart, when have you wisely had to step aside from a goal, knowing you probably step aside from nothing?
Thank you, Table Topics Master, Toastmaster today, and fellow guests and Toastmasters. That's an interesting question, because, like you stated, I usually don't back down from any challenge. And I can't really recall of a time where I had to back down from anything in particular. So I'll tell you about a story where I actually rose to a challenge, if that's okay. I was in a basketball team, high school basketball team, and apparently I didn't start. I was kind of upset about that. And it was game day. I was ready to go. And the starting team were all drunk. They were all drunk. They decided to drink right before the game. So the coach put me in the game, and I was just doing what came naturally to me. I supported the team. I scored 38 points and won the game by 1 point, which was a free throw. I was fouled on the three-point line, went to the free throw line, and knocked them down 1, 2, and 3. As soon as I hit 3, everybody, the whole crowd, ran onto the court, raised me to the air, and everyone was happy about what happened. I'll never forget that story. But in regards to your question about backing down from a challenge, I never do. I always raise to the occasion. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Stewart. Thomas Edison once said, wait, how did I goof this here? It said, many of life failures are people who do not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Tell us of a story of persevering in the face of doubt. Thad, tell us of a story of your persevering in the face of doubt. You're on mute, Thad. Thad, oh, there you go.
Yeah, you threw me for a loop because I wasn't prepared to talk. I thought I was going to be able to just sit here and eat my dinner for the next 5 minutes. All right, so a time where I persevered. I would have to say, interestingly enough, when I became a teacher, I had just left the world of being a financial advisor and decided that I wanted to become a teacher because I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family. I was tired of working until 9, 10 o'clock every night and all day Saturday and never seeing my family. And having a wife and a 2-year-old at home seemed like it was a much better option for me. So where the perseverance comes in is they don't make it easy for you to figure out how to be a teacher. You would think with the shortage of teachers, you just go in and say, hey, I want to be a teacher. They'd be like, put their arm around you and take you right in and show you how to do it. No, they tell you, oh, you need to come to this meeting on Tuesday. All right, I'll be there. So I show up to the meeting on Tuesday and they say, what meeting? What do you mean there's a meeting for people who want to be a teacher? We don't know anything about a meeting to be a teacher. I'm like, well, who should I talk to then? Oh, we need to talk to this lady. So I went and talked to that lady. And she said, I'm not the person you need to talk to. This is the person you need to talk to. And that lady said, no, you don't need to talk to me. You need to go to this meeting on Tuesday. And after a round and around and around, I finally found somebody. I persevered to the point where somebody was willing to help me and show me the ropes of what I needed to do to become certified to become a teacher. That is how I persevered.
Good job. Mr. Timer, do we have time for one more, or are we done?
We are done. We're done.
Toastmaster of the day.
Everybody give Toastmaster Jack a round of applause. Thank you, Toastmaster Jack, for that wonderful table topics session. Appreciate it. May I have a brief timers report on table topics?
All speakers were within the allotted time.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. Toastmaster Ray or Toastmaster Shea, will you be launching the votes for best speaker at this point?
We will be launching now the best formal speaker. One second.
Thank you.
And just a point of order, as Michelle Gonzalez gave us her icebreaker tonight, we actually do not vote on icebreakers. So we should vote between Brendan McCauley and Susanna Talahar.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sonia. Toastmaster Ray, would you like to rerun that? Or do you, if you need a minute, we can do it later.
I will need a...
I don't think you need to rerun it. Just don't vote for Susanna on that one, and we're good.
For Michelle.
All right.
Yes, for Michelle. No, you can vote for Susanna.
I think we're good.
We're good?
What's the result? Yeah.
All righty. We shall move on then. The third section of our meeting is evaluations, the gift of instant feedback, a key part of the success of the Toastmasters program. Please welcome our junior evaluator, Toastmaster Gary Newper.
Thank you, Toastmaster Justin. Timer, please demonstrate the timing signals for the speech evaluations.
Yes, sir. Similarly, I will raise the green background. Let's set my background here. After 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I will go back to the yellow card background. And after 3 minutes, I will place a red background. Or the value right there.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. Our first evaluator for this evening, evaluating Toastmaster Michelle. Please welcome Toastmaster Shastri Stewart.
Thank you, General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Michelle Gonzalez Hill. I want to make sure that I pronounce your full name. Today, I'd like to focus on 3 points: organization, content, and delivery. Now, Michelle, as a new speaker, a newbie, you had an intro to the Toastmaster, which I thought was very good. Excellent job for doing that. Your speech was wonderfully organized. You acknowledged everyone before the meeting, even the Toastmaster of the day, which is pretty cool. You clearly had a beginning, a body, and a conclusion. So for a new speaker, your speech was very organized. Content. Man, we had a lot of content. Very interesting content as well. Very entertaining. You stated you become what you dislike most about your parents. And the way you emphasized on that really struck a nerve. You also said all the names begin with M. So that's another thing that we learned about you. And you are also the eldest. And you know how to cook. So I guess you probably have to cook for our team in the near future. And you also stated you love chocolate, but it does not reciprocate, which I thought was very clever way of play of words. Great job on doing that. In regards to your delivery, when you were talking about your dad and you said, and you was reciting or you said something in the likes of, there's a fly on the wall, there's a fly on the wall. Your tone, the way you used your hands was excellent. Your voice was filled with life, very energetic. And then you concluded, I am my father's child. So that goes back to the organization of the speech. Now, I'd like to provide you with a few suggestions for your next speech. You did an awesome job, even though we weren't able to see your body. You did an awesome job really using your hand gestures and your body and your facial expressions. But just to suggest, maybe if you stand for your next speech, you don't have to take it, but if you just stand, maybe that might amplify your speech, amplify your energy a little bit more. Also, if you could rehearse your speech, what that does, it gives you a time where you need to end. Because at the end, it felt like you were a little rushed and you had a lot of content to talk about, but you didn't have as much time. And then lastly, about your dad. So you spoke about yourself briefly, you spoke about your brothers and your family briefly, and then you spoke about your dad. It seemed like your dad had a lot of character, a lot of content, and I'd rather you had focused on him solely for that speech because you had so much content about him. I wanted to hear more about him. So sometimes we have to make sacrifices when we give speeches. We want people to know everything about us, but we can't do it in one speech. So maybe focusing on one character, maybe your dad would be a better use of time. Overall, I thought you did an excellent job as a first speaker. I loved your energy. I loved your accent. I loved your passion. Everything you said was authentic, and I can't wait to see more. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shastri. I was enjoying your evaluation so much, I nearly forgot that I was the evaluator. Our next evaluator is Toastmaster Connie, and she will be giving us the speech evaluation for Toastmaster Brendan. Welcome, Toastmaster Connie.
Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, and especially you, Brendan. Brendan, you had me at, babe, will you support me in my business if I go solo, or something to that effect. For the time that I have known you, I loved your vulnerability, or just that nice side of you, the cute side of you to say babe. So that really, really caught my attention. And I loved the questions, the vulnerability also that you showed, asking yourself, thinking about your business. What am I missing? How can I get paid my worth? I mean, isn't that the basis of all successful people, that they know that secret? And here you are bringing us that secret this evening. Your speech makes me want to know more about your 5-day free challenge. So there were a lot of great words that really grabbed my attention. So I love, you know, the 5-day free challenge, the top 5 areas. And but what I wanted to know, I'm like, oh good, I get to hear like what Brendan's 5 top areas were. And I think that I would have enjoyed it more if you had given me a real life example of what happened with yours as you were giving us that example. I love how you broke down your business plan versus your partner's business plan, and how you helped him break down the numbers. I'm not a numbers person, but I actually was able to follow you. So I commend you for that, if I was able to follow that part of it. I felt that your body language was great. Your eye contact was great. Another area of improvement where I feel that you can get better at is just being vulnerable with your face and with your voice too. A little bit more intonation up and down and a little more vulnerability with your facial expressions. I think that that is so important because you've got so much great stuff to say. So I think if you think about that, and one of the things that Brandon and I had commented about was he wanted me to watch his speed. I felt that, yeah, speed is a thing for you, and you can get a lot in a little amount of time. However, I think overall it was better. I think you just keep improving on that, and it's going to come. But overall, Brendan, I am always impressed by your delivery and your confidence. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Connie. Our third and final evaluator for the evening is Toastmaster Shay, and she will be providing the evaluation for Toastmaster Susanna. Welcome, Toastmaster Shay.
Thank you, Toastmaster Gary. A tale as old as time. I am so excited to be evaluating this particular speech for Susanna. I am a big Disney cartoon, fantasy, animation. I'm all about it. So for you to take a classic film and make it new again gets me excited. First of all, I love that you began with the use of the video clip. You brought us all back to the first time, or maybe a recent time, that we've seen this classic film. I think it was a great personal connection with you, your family, and the relevancy to your past experience and your daughters now. I think it was just awesome that you were transparent with us about young Susanna and your dreams and your aspirations and the parallel you made between you and Belle. The first point, never lose yourself for the approval of others. I think that is a strong and positive lesson for us to all embrace, especially in a time where there's so many messages, so many agendas being thrown our way. I think it's easy to be influenced by the people that you're surrounded with. So there's so much I could say. Secondly, you said, look beyond what you see. Get over, I perceived it as get over the superficial, see the real beast. And I think that also is a speech all in itself, see the real beast. In closing, so not in closing, but some pointers I would say is you're working at the technical aspect. So sharing the film, the clip, the audio, I think that there's ways that maybe you could get on and practice or have someone be like a point person to help you with that so that it would be a smoother transition. But other than that, it was not a long time. So it didn't break the flow of your overall speech. I would say since the point of your speech itself was about body language, all we could see is points where your hands going in and out. And those are great gestures because you were emphasizing your point. But as far as overall body language, we only got to see head and shoulders. Again, I appreciate a fresh look at such a classic story. I found it extremely insightful, and I find you extremely insightful. I encourage you to continue sharing, and I remember Hyun's challenge to you to delve into something else outside of leadership. Well, this was an awesome start. So I look forward to more, and good job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shay. Thank you to all our evaluators this evening. We'll get to some feedback on evaluations later in the evaluators report, but we really appreciate all the feedback from our evaluators. And it's always a challenge to some of our newer members as well to sign up and do some speech evaluations. You really learn a lot from doing that. So thank you everyone for that. Timer, could we please get a brief timer's report on the speech evaluations?
Yes, General Evaluator. So just so everybody knows, I did have the wrong background for Shastri as he started, but I did get it corrected with the help of him. All evaluators were within the allotted time.
Thank you, Toastmaster A. Are we ready to vote for speech evaluations? Well, I guess table topics as a starting point.
We are, verify them. They all look good. They're going to be launching now.
I guess by now everyone has had the opportunity to vote, so we will continue with the next part of the meeting evaluation. I'd like to call on Toastmaster Sonia for the grammarians report.
General Evaluator, the word of the day, diligence, was used correctly about 2 times, but the theme of the meeting, perseverance. Oh, that was a popular word today. I heard that about, I would say 12 plus times. So congrats on sticking with at least one word, guys, perseverance. So some misuse of language that I observed. Completing our sentences. I heard quite a few sentences that had a beginning and a middle, but no end. So please welcome. Big fantasy, I'm all about that. And we miss the ending of our sentences. So make sure, and even if you are in the middle of a thought and you don't know where you're ending, go ahead and maybe take a quick breather and try and get to the end. So we're not left hanging, like what I just did. Repetition of phrases and words. We had a couple of those. And then also I think because for some of us, English is not our first language, we miss some of those key pronouns that we need and also those words that flow and transition our sentences. So for example, in 18th century, we need to say in the 18th century, or for example, approval, my parents, I think we need to say approval from my parents. We completely understand your point and we can mislook that. But tonight is where I get to really hone in and point out those misuse of language. Some phrases that stuck with me tonight include, they did what they could with what they had. And also from the song, both a little scared, neither one prepared. I've heard that song multiple times, but I never really paid attention to the words as much as I had tonight. The phrase also that was important to think about, look beyond what you see. And my favorite phrase tonight was, I love chocolate cake, but it does not reciprocate. I love that use of taking an object and giving it a personality or a feeling, which is a great play on words tonight. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sonia. Toastmaster Hyun, please could you provide us with the R counters report?
Yes, my pleasure. Total filler words that were used tonight was 34. Could be 35, could be 36, but that's okay. I'd like to point out one good thing that Sonia did just now. Instead of saying she paused for like half a second when she said, taking an object instead of taking an object. So that was a very good technique Sonia used. In fact, I did not hear any filler word from her. She already pointed out our tendency to repeat the words or repeat phrases. She talked about that. And I am going to pick on Brandon. Brandon is a very good speaker. He tends to sneak in souls very quickly. But I couldn't keep up. I did not want to ding because it was going so quickly. I did not want to interrupt the flow of the speech. So he and I talked about that. I am guessing you received my personal messages by now. So well done, everybody.
Thank you, Toastmaster Hyun. I will now give you my general evaluators report from the meeting. As a starting point, just in terms of the speeches and the speech introductions, it sounded like everyone had speech introductions prepared and the project information was there. I think we just need to work on making sure that we have the right speech information for the right speakers. Did the meeting start on time? Yes, we cut it fine, but we made it. Were the guests welcomed? Yes, our guests were welcomed. We seem to occasionally forget Hyun's new designation, so welcome, Area Director Hyun. The Toastmaster of the day did a great job in leading everyone in applause. The roles were explained. The transitions between formal speeches were very smooth. Justin was paying close attention to that and giving compliments to the speakers in between. Great job, Toastmaster Justin. I think the meeting might finish a few minutes late. In terms of the table topics, the theme of the table topics was stated. The topics were appropriate. One area that maybe we could have changed a little bit was with Toastmaster Shastri being an evaluator. Maybe we could have chosen one of the other members. That was good to have a guest in the table topics as well. So maybe we could also just make sure that we confirm with them before we start the table topics, just whether or not they'll participate. Thad did a fantastic job, so great job. I know he was caught a bit off guard with that. The speech evaluators were all really great. I think some seasoned speech evaluators, definitely some tough competition. Good job on that. All of them did the Oreo cookie method, starting with some praise, giving some pointers for improvement and ending on a positive note. Well done, Ray, on the timer. I think you've already mentioned the timing for Shastri, so we'll be aware of that going forward. Our counter, great job, Hyun. I heard the bell occasionally, but I know that's just an ongoing challenge with Zoom.
It is. It really is.
Yes. And Sonia was very diligent with her grammarian's report. So well done for that, even keeping track of our unofficial word of the day. Good meeting, everyone. This concludes my evaluation of the meeting. Please welcome back Toastmaster Justin.
Round of applause for Gary. Thank you so much to Gary for that wonderful evaluation. We're going to now move on to the presentation of our awards. Toastmaster Ray, would you be able to share with us the winners of each of our sections? If you're trying to speak, you're still on mute.
Sure am. All right. In first place for best formal speaker, it is Brendan McCauley. And in first place for evaluator, Shastri Stewart. And first place table topic, Gary Duper. And of course, Michelle as her first icebreaker, as well as in first place. So she automatically gets a ribbon.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ray. Well, it's my pleasure to serve as your Toastmaster of the day once again. As we are over time now, I'm just going to pass it right along to Shastri to close us out. Toastmaster Shastri.
Thank you, Justin. Great job, awesome job, and thank you for leading our meeting. You did an awesome, wonderful job tonight, as always. I'll be brief, so I'll touch bases with our guests. So we have Thad. Thad, can you tell us what you learned and what you liked about our meeting tonight?
Well, I learned a lot about the structure of how you guys do things. I like the grammatical checks because I think I do a lot of those. And obviously I say a lot of ums and ahs because I'm already catching myself doing it now. So I think all of those will be beneficial to me.
Good, awesome. And feel free to join us again. Woodland, what did you learn? And what did you like about our meeting tonight?
What I liked about the meeting was the different stories that everyone had. And that is it.
All right, Woodland, thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you joining us again. Hopefully, Yon, you're still counting the ums. All right, so it's 8:08, so I'll be very quick.
37, thanks to Shastri.
Yeah. All right, everyone did a wonderful job tonight. I would like to highlight two things. On November 2nd, we do have a special club meeting for Halloween. So we would like you to dress up as whatever you like yourself. That's fine too. We'll have a small competition with groups, and I'll pass it over to Jack so you can explain. He'll be the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're going to create it a little more like a table topics, but instead of just being a simple table topics, we're going to start a story and we're going to have teams of 3 people. So speaker 1 will go on with the story, leave it off to speaker 2, and then speaker 3. We're looking at about 3 minutes, so 9 minutes per segment, and we'll carry it on. Hopefully we'll get 3 segments in. So if you'd like to sign up, we'll get something out on there as part of one of the teams. We'd like to have it. So it's going to be a little bit different. We'll still need a timer. We won't be doing evaluations. The evaluations will be the voting in this particular case, since there'll be 3 separate individuals. But that's kind of our game plan. We're still working it out, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus, if you dress up, you got a contest. We do have awards for the best contest. So hope to see you there, and let's make it fun. Also, Shastri, let's point out we do not have a Toastmaster yet for next week's meeting.
Yes, I was gonna get to that, and we also have a trivia question where after all the speeches, we'll have a trivia question after that. So it'll be a very cool meeting. Hopefully, you could invite guests and friends as well, so that they could be entertained and be part of the celebration. All right, so we need a Toastmaster for next week. Any volunteers?
if nobody can do it, I'll be happy to do it next week. But I always like to encourage well, there is no such a thing as junior Toastmasters, but people who haven't done not table topics. What am I talking about? Who haven't done Toastmasters, please do that. It's a lot of learning, but it's productive and worthwhile. Can anybody do it?
Tim, what about you? I haven't seen you
Okay,
at
I'll do
Toastmasters
it.
for a while.
I'll
Good,
do
Connie.
it.
You want to
It's
do
Connie.
next week? And I will do 1 week after you. How's that?
Oh,
Sounds good?
wait, who's doing it next week?
You do it. And I
Me?
will do another week after you.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. I'll do it next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Connie, for volunteering.
You're welcome.
All right, so now it's 8:12. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for joining us on another Monday night meeting. It felt like a blur, honestly. So thank you. Tim wanted to say something? Oh, he was saying bye. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Thad, Woodland, Connie, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Justin, see you later.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Thad.
Absolutely.
Come back.